Buckle up, everyone. It's time for another deep dive.
Yes.
And today, we're diving deep into the world of the Apostle Paul.
Right.
But not just Paul himself. We're going to be talking about the amazing people who joined him on his journey.
Okay. Interesting.
You know, the ones who helped him spread Christianity?
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever wondered who was with him as he traveled across that huge Roman Empire?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question.
Well, today's the day we find out.
Awesome.
We'll meet his crew, uncover their stories, and see how they all played a part in changing history.
Well, I think what's really cool about this deep dive is that we're shifting the focus a little.
Right.
We're not just looking at Paul,
Yeah.
this towering figure on his own. We're going to see all those unsung heroes who worked alongside him.
I like it.
It's a good reminder that even the most influential people,
Yeah.
they rarely do it alone.
They need their people.
You got it, their team.
Okay, so before we jump into meeting Paul's inner circle, let's quickly set the scene.
Okay.
Remind everyone about Paul's life. Just the highlights.
Yeah, sounds good.
So what were the key moments that sent him on this incredible journey?
Well, we got to start with his beginning.
Okay.
Paul originally went by the name Saul.
Right. Saul of Tarsus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was born in Tarsus, which is in modern-day Turkey.
Okay.
And get this, he was a Roman citizen from birth.
Fancy.
Right. And a super devout Jew.
Wow.
Yeah, he even studied under this famous Rabbi Gamaliel in Jerusalem.
So basically, he was on the path to success within the Jewish world.
You got it.
He sounds like a total overachiever.
Yeah, he was definitely going places.
But then everything changes, right?
Big time.
That dramatic encounter on the road to Damascus.
Exactly. So he's on his way to Damascus to persecute Christians, no less.
Right.
And, man, he has this incredible vision of Jesus.
Wow.
And it's not just a vision.
What happens?
He's temporarily blinded by it.
Oh, wow.
It completely transforms him.
Talk about a life-changing experience.
You said it.
So then he's baptized, he changes his name to Paul,
Yep.
and dedicates his life to spreading the very faith he used to try to destroy.
That's Paul for you. You talk about a plot twist.
I mean, it's just amazing how a single event can totally change the direction of someone's life.
It really is.
So what happens right after his conversion?
Good question.
Does he just immediately start preaching and converting people left and right?
Not quite.
Oh.
He actually spent some time in Arabia and Damascus.
Okay.
Preaching, but also facing opposition.
So it wasn't all smooth sailing right away?
No, not at all.
Okay, then what?
Well, then he visits Jerusalem,
Uh-huh.
and he meets Peter and James.
Okay.
These are major leaders in the early church.
Oh, wow. So he's connecting with the big players.
He is.
Okay.
But there are threats.
Uh-huh.
They force him to flee back to Tarsus.
So he ends up back in his hometown.
Yeah, for about 14 years.
14 years. Wow. So there's this period of waiting and preparation before his main ministry really takes off, right?
It's almost like he's being, equipped and refined.
Totally.
For all the challenges ahead.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
And importantly, those 14 years weren't wasted.
Right.
Paul's writings later on suggest that he was still out there preaching.
Oh, really?
Probably in those regions of Syria and Cilicia.
So it's like he was honing his skills.
Yeah, refining them.
Deepening his understanding of the gospel before he stepped onto that world stage.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we're around the year 47 A.D.
Yeah.
When Paul embarks on those famous missionary journeys.
Yes.
And this is where that amazing supporting cast you were talking about comes in.
Right.
These fascinating figures we're going to learn about today.
Their stories are something else.
Oh, I bet.
Filled with drama, dedication, and even a little conflict.
Oh, this, I got to hear.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even the apostles were human.
They had their moments.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so who should we meet first in this incredible crew?
Let's start with Barnabas. Barnabas, okay.
Yeah, he was the one who brought Paul to Antioch.
Right.
Introduced him to the other apostles after his conversion.
So kind of a crucial figure.
Very crucial.
Okay.
And his nickname was Son of Encouragement.
I love how.
Which I think really says it all about his character.
Son of Encouragement. That's beautiful.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
He sounds like Paul's ultimate hype man.
Yeah.
Someone who believed in him,
Totally.
even when other people were skeptical.
Absolutely.
So tell me, what's his backstory?
Well, he was a Levite.
Okay.
From Cyprus.
All right. So for those of us who don't know a Levite, that's...
Oh, right. Good point.
Yeah.
A Levite was a member of the priestly tribe in Judaism.
Okay.
So like Paul, he had the strong religious background.
Gotcha.
And he was known for his generosity and kindness. He even sold some property.
Oh.
And gave the proceeds to the apostles.
No way.
Yeah, to support that early Christian community.
He put his money where his mouth was.
He did. He really did.
It sounds like they really hit it off.
Yeah, I imagine they did.
But you mentioned earlier that their partnership had some challenges,
It did.
right? Some bumps along the way.
Yeah, it wasn't always easy.
So tell me about that.
Well, their partnership was super important to spreading Christianity early on,
Right.
but it wasn't without its issues.
Okay.
They went on their first missionary journey together to Cyprus and different parts of Asia Minor.
Spreading the gospel and starting new churches.
That's right, busy guys.
Yeah.
But then on a later journey,
Okay.
they had a major disagreement,
Oh,
and it all came down to John Mark.
John Mark. Wait, as in Mark the gospel writer.
That's the one.
No way.
Yeah, it turns out Mark had gone with them on that first journey, but left partway through, maybe overwhelmed by all the tough travel.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so when they were planning their second journey,
Yeah.
Barnabas, being the good guy that he was,
Yeah.
he wanted to give Mark another chance.
I can see where this is going.
Yeah.
Paul was not on board with that.
He was not.
Uh-huh.
Paul was totally against working with Mark again
Yeah.
after he abandoned him the first time.
He didn't trust him.
Cool.
And this disagreement caused a real rift between them.
It did, a serious one.
So their disagreement about John Mark
Yeah,
became a turning point in their relationship.
a major turning point.
Wow. It's so fascinating to see that even these early church leaders,
Yeah,
they had strong personalities.
They did.
Disagreement.
they were human.
What happened to Barnabas after he and Paul split up?
Well, the details of his later ministry are a bit unclear.
Okay.
We think he continued spreading the gospel in Cyprus,
Yeah.
probably working with John Mark.
Okay.
Tradition says he was eventually martyred there,
Oh,
but we don't know the specifics.
that's so sad.
It is.
But also a real testament to his dedication.
It really is.
He seems like a truly inspiring figure.
Yeah,
And his influence on Paul can't be underestimated.
absolutely not.
I mean, he was the one who vouched for Paul.
Right. When everyone else was still suspicious.
Yeah, after that conversion.
He really paved the way for Paul's future ministry.
He did.
Totally.
Barnabas had this amazing ability to see potential in Paul, even when others doubted him.
Yeah.
It's a powerful lesson in mentorship and reconciliation.
It is.
It was a real bridge builder.
Okay, so we've met Barnabas the encourager,
Yeah.
and we've seen how his partnership with Paul,
Mm-hmm.
even though it ended dramatically,
Yeah,
was really crucial to spreading Christianity early on.
it was.
I'm curious about this Silas character now.
Okay.
You know, the one who stepped in after Barnabas?
Yeah, he's an interesting one.
Who was he, and how did he connect with Paul?
Well, Silas, also known as Silvanus,
Okay.
was a leader in that early Jerusalem church,
What?
and importantly, a Roman citizen.
Okay. Why is that important?
Well, that little detail would actually come in handy during their travels.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
So how did they end up teaming up?
Good question. Was it like a natural fit from the start?
Well, after Paul and Barnabas went their separate ways,
Mm-hmm.
Paul needed a new travel buddy
Makes sense.
for his second missionary journey.
Yeah.
He chose Silas.
Okay.
And together, they went through some pretty tough areas.
Like where?
Asia Minor, Macedonia, Greece.
Oh, wow.
They faced opposition, even imprisonment,
Sounds intense.
but they also had amazing breakthroughs.
What kind of breakthroughs?
Well, they established churches in some of the most influential cities in the Roman Empire.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite a journey.
It makes you realize how much courage and resilience those early Christians must have had.
Yeah, they had to be tough.
Where did they face the most opposition?
One really dramatic incident happened in Philippi.
Philippi.
They were in prison there.
Oh, no, why?
They had healed a slave girl
Okay.
who was being exploited for fortune telling.
Oh, wow. So people were making money off of her.
Yeah, her owners were using her as a source of income.
That's awful.
Yeah.
So they weren't happy about losing their profits.
Not one bit.
Wow. But even in prison, their spirits didn't break.
They were strong.
They turned their imprisonment into a chance to spread the gospel.
They did.
That's incredible.
They kept preaching and singing hymns,
Really?
even chained up in a dark, damp cell.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and their faith really impressed the jailer.
I bet.
He and his entire household converted to Christianity.
Oh, wow. What an amazing story.
It is.
It's like even hardship can be used to advance the gospel.
Exactly. Sometimes the toughest situations can lead to the greatest victories.
Their imprisonment, even though terrifying, became a turning point.
It did a real turning point.
So what happened after they were released?
Well, they continued on their journey.
Okay.
They eventually reached Thessalonica,
Mm-hmm.
and established another church.
Wow. But I'm guessing they faced more opposition?
Of course, it wouldn't be a Paul and Silas story without some pushback.
Right. Of course.
This time it was from some jealous Jews. Yeah, they stirred up a mob against them.
It seems like every step forward was met with some kind of resistance.
It was a constant battle.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder how they kept going.
Yeah, I know.
Facing all that resistance and danger.
It must have taken so much faith and perseverance.
It really did.
It's truly inspiring.
It is.
And it's important to remember that Silas wasn't just a sidekick to Paul.
That's right.
He was a respected leader himself.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, the letters to the Thessalonians,
Yeah?
they're attributed to both of them.
Exactly. They were partners.
Right, a team.
Supporting and encouraging each other through thick and thin.
That makes their relationship even more interesting.
Definitely.
They weren't just colleagues, they were brothers.
United by their faith and their mission.
I love that. So what do we know about Silas's life after he and Paul eventually parted ways?
Sadly, the details of his later life and death are pretty mysterious.
Really?
Some traditions suggest he worked with Peter, and he's considered a saint in different Christian denominations.
Oh, wow.
But the specifics of his later years are lost to us.
It's like he fades into the background.
Kind of, yeah.
After playing such a key role in Paul's ministry.
It's a shame.
I know it is. He deserves more recognition for his bravery and dedication.
Agreed.
Okay, so far we've met Barnabas, the encourager,
Yeah.
and Silas, the steadfast companion.
That's right.
Who else is in Paul's inner circle?
Well, let's move on to Timothy.
Timothy.
Yes, he was much younger than Paul
Okay.
and often referred to as his son in the faith.
Ah.
Paul entrusted him with some really important missions and responsibilities.
Okay.
He became a close protege.
Timothy. I always picture him as that young, eager student
Yeah.
learning from the wise master.
It's a good image.
So what's his background?
Well, his story is interesting because it shows us how complex the early church really was.
Oh, how so?
His mother, Eunice,
Yeah.
she was a Jewish Christian,
Okay.
but his father was Greek.
Oh, wow. So a mixed heritage.
Exactly, and that would actually play a big part in his work with Paul.
Really? How so?
Well, you got to remember the context.
Yeah.
Back then, early Christianity was still deeply rooted in Judaism,
Right.
and there were these big debates about whether Gentile converts needed to follow all the Jewish laws and customs.
This was a major issue in the early church, right?
A huge issue. It caused a lot of tension.
So how did Timothy's mixed heritage fit into all this?
Well, when Paul and Silas arrived in Lystra,
Okay.
Timothy's hometown,
Right.
during their second journey,
Yeah.
they saw something special in him.
What was it?
Timothy, with his Jewish upbringing and knowledge of Greek culture,
Right.
he could bridge the gap between those two worlds.
I see.
He could connect with both Jewish and Gentile audiences.
Oh, that's smart.
Right, making him the perfect person to spread the gospel to a wider audience.
He was like a cultural ambassador.
Exactly, a bridge between two different worlds.
So Paul basically saw his potential
Yes, he did.
to reach a broader audience.
Totally.
And before taking him along,
Yeah,
Paul had Timothy circumcised.
that's right.
Now, that might seem a bit strange.
I know, at first.
Yeah, but it was a strategic move.
Okay, why?
It was to avoid causing unnecessary offense
Right.
and make Timothy more acceptable to the Jewish community
Oh, I see.
that they would be visiting.
So it was all about making sure Timothy could effectively reach both groups.
Exactly.
It's fascinating to see how they navigated this complex cultural landscape.
Right.
They were trying to integrate Gentile believers without pushing away Jewish Christians.
It was a delicate balance.
So how did Timothy's ministry develop?
Well, he became one of Paul's most trusted companions.
Okay.
They traveled all over Greece and Asia Minor.
Wow.
And Paul even sent him on solo missions
Yeah.
to strengthen those new churches.
Oh, wow. So he had a lot of responsibility.
He did.
Yeah.
And you can really see in Paul's letters
Yeah.
how much affection he had for Timothy.
Yeah.
He often calls him my beloved son.
And expresses a lot of confidence in him.
It sounds like a true mentor-mentee relationship.
Definitely a lot of mutual respect and trust there.
Yeah.
You mentioned letters.
Yeah.
Paul actually wrote 2 letters directly to Timothy.
That's right. One in Timothy.
Exactly.
They were basically pastoral letters, right?
Yep, full of practical advice
Okay.
and guidance for Timothy.
As he was leading the church in Ephesus, they covered topics like church leadership,
Yeah.
how to deal with false teachers,
Uh-huh.
and persevering through tough times.
That's right.
Timeless advice.
Absolutely. Still relevant today.
It's incredible to think that these personal letters written so long ago
Yeah.
still resonate with people today.
They do.
They show us the enduring power of Paul's teachings.
And the lasting impact of mentorship.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do we know about Timothy's later life and death?
Tradition says he became the bishop of Ephesus
Oh, wow.
and was martyred there.
Martyred how?
Stoned to death for opposing pagan rituals.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. A tragic end.
Yeah, for someone who dedicated his life to spreading a message of peace and love.
It's a sobering reminder of the persecution early Christians faced.
It really is.
But his legacy continued.
Yeah.
The church in Ephesus thrived under his leadership.
Okay.
And his example of faithfulness is still inspiring Christians today.
That's beautiful.
It is.
So we've met the encourager, the steadfast companion, and the devoted student.
Yeah.
That leaves one last member of Paul's inner circle.
Right.
And this one is a little different, isn't he?
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
Well, we can't forget about Luke,
Luke.
the author of the Gospel of Luke
Yeah.
and the book of Acts.
Ah, Luke the evangelist.
The one and only.
He's the one who gave us such a detailed account of the early church and Paul's journeys.
We owe him a lot.
We do.
Mm.
So how did he end up joining Paul's crew?
That's a good question.
Was he there from the beginning?
We don't know exactly when they first met,
Okay.
but it seems that Luke, who was a Gentile physician, he joined Paul during that second missionary journey.
Oh, okay.
We know this because the storytelling in Acts shifts from they to we,
Right.
starting in chapter 16.
So that means he was there traveling with Paul and Silas.
Exactly.
That makes his account even more compelling.
Definitely.
He wasn't just relying on secondhand information.
Nope.
He was an eyewitness to history.
He was right there in the action.
And his medical background adds another layer to their relationship.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, Paul had this recurring health issue.
Oh, right.
Often called his thorn in the flesh.
Yes.
And although we don't know exactly what it was,
yeah,
some scholars think that Luke may have actually provided medical care for Paul
that's possible.
during their travels.
Yeah, it's like having a doctor on speed dial.
I bet Paul was grateful for that, especially during those long journeys.
Yeah.
With, questionable hygiene.
For sure.
But beyond medical care,
Yeah.
what was Luke's main role in Paul's ministry?
Well, he might have helped with medical stuff. Yeah. But his biggest contribution was definitely his writing.
Right.
Both the Gospel of Luke and the book of Acts are incredibly well-researched and beautifully written.
They really are.
They give us this comprehensive story of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection.
Yeah.
And how the early church spread through the apostles.
It's all thanks to Luke.
Yeah, we owe him a lot.
His writing is really engaging.
It is.
I especially love the parables in Luke's gospel.
Me too.
They're so relatable and thought-provoking.
They really bring Jesus' teachings to life.
Yeah, and the book of Acts is like a sequel
It is.
to Luke's gospel.
Picking up right where it left off
Yeah.
and tracing the Holy Spirit's movement
Yeah.
through the early church.
It's like reading an adventure story.
It is.
Full of excitement and danger
Yeah,
as they spread this new faith across the Roman Empire.
absolutely.
And Luke wasn't just a passive observer.
He was very much involved.
He was an active participant in the mission.
That's right.
So what happened to Luke after Paul died?
Well, we don't have definite information about his later years.
Okay.
But tradition suggests he kept writing and preaching, possibly traveling to Greece and Egypt.
Wow.
They say he lived to a ripe old age,
Yeah.
dying around 84 AD.
Wow. It's amazing to think that we owe so much of our understanding of early Christianity to this physician turned evangelist.
It really is.
His writings still shape our faith today.
And inspire us centuries later.
It's incredible.
It is.
So we've met the encourager, the steadfast companion, the devoted student, and
Yeah.
the gifted storyteller.
What a crew.
It's amazing to see how these different people
Yeah.
with their own strengths and weaknesses came together to support Paul's ministry.
It's fascinating how their individual stories are woven into Paul's journey,
Yeah.
creating this rich tapestry of human connection,
It is.
dedication, and ultimately the spread of a faith that would change the world.
Powerful stuff.
But there's one more twist in this story.
Oh, really?
Remember that dramatic split between Paul and Barnabas over John Mark?
Yeah, the one that sent them on separate paths.
Exactly.
Did they ever reconcile?
That's where things get interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
We don't have all the details about their reconciliation,
Yeah.
but there are hints in Paul's later letters.
Oh, what kind of hints?
Well, in his first letter to the Corinthians,
Okay.
Paul mentions Barnabas in a positive light.
Really?
Yeah, which suggests they were back on good terms.
So they patched things up.
Seems like it.
It's encouraging to see that even these strong-willed leaders
Yeah.
could find a way to forgive and move forward.
Absolutely. Forgiveness is key.
It is.
And there's more.
Okay, tell me.
Remember how strongly Paul opposed taking John Mark on that second journey?
Oh, yeah, he was adamant.
He was.
Okay.
But years later, in his letter to the Colossians, Paul actually speaks well of Mark.
No way.
Yeah, calling him a fellow worker.
A fellow working.
And get this.
What?
In his last letter to Timothy, written just before his death.
Oh.
Paul specifically asks Timothy to bring Mark to him.
Really?
He says, get Mark and bring him with you, for he is helpful to me in my ministry.
Wow, what a change of heart.
It is, right?
It seems Paul finally came to appreciate Mark's talents and dedication.
It seems so.
But what made him change his mind?
We can only guess.
Yeah.
But it's likely that John Mark proved himself over time.
Okay.
Maybe he matured through his experiences with Barnabas.
Yeah.
He became a valuable asset to the ministry.
Maybe Paul,
Yeah.
reflecting on his own life and the importance of forgiveness, saw that it was time to reconcile with both Mark and Barnabas.
That makes sense.
Because holding on to bitterness and resentment wouldn't have helped their mission.
Not at all.
The reconciliation is such a beautiful example of redemption and second chances.
It reminds us that even when we disagree and have conflicts, there's always room for grace and understanding.
Always.
And sometimes time and experience can soften our hearts and lead us to reconciliation.
This has been an incredible journey so far.
It has.
We started with Paul.
Yeah.
But we've uncovered so much more than just his story.
Right.
We've met the people who shaped his ministry, shared his burdens, and helped spread his message.
It's amazing.
It really shows us that even the most influential figures, they rarely achieve greatness alone.
That's true.
They need a network of support, a community of dedicated people.
Working together towards a common goal.
Exactly. And their stories are full of valuable lessons for us today.
They are.
They challenge us to think about our own roles in the world.
How we can make a difference.
How we can use our talents to support others.
And build bridges of understanding.
And collaboration.
Exactly.
It's inspiring to think that we're all part of this ongoing story.
We are.
This grand narrative of faith, service, and impact.
It makes you wonder, who are the unsung heroes today?
Yeah.
The ones working behind the scenes, shaping history.
In ways we might not fully appreciate for years or even decades.
That's a great question to ponder.
It is. It really is.
Who are those hidden figures making a difference?
That's something for all of us to think about.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Into the world of the Apostle Paul and his incredible companions.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. I hope you've learned something new.
I know I have.
And been inspired to delve deeper into this amazing chapter of history.
There's always more to discover.
And who knows what other incredible stories are waiting to be uncovered.
Exactly. The journey continues.
It does.
He was strategic and adaptable.
In his approach.
Yeah, he didn't just preach to anyone who'd listen.
Okay.
He focused on certain locations.
Which ones?
Often those major urban centers.
Makes sense.
Like Antioch, Ephesus, Corinth, Rome.
So those big population centers.
Exactly.
Where his message could reach more people and have a wider impact.
He understood that if he could get a foothold in those key cities,
the message would spread naturally.
Oh, I see, through those trade routes and social networks.
Right, like wildfire.
Smart. But how did he approach those new cities?
Oh, good question.
What was his strategy for connecting with people?
His first stop was usually the synagogue.
The synagogue, okay.
Yeah, that way he could connect with both Jews and God-fearing Gentiles.
So people who were already familiar with the scriptures.
Exactly. He was meeting them on common ground.
Smart. Especially since Christianity was still so new and unfamiliar to most people.
He'd reason with them from the Old Testament.
Oh, using what they already knew?
Exactly, explaining how Jesus fulfilled those prophecies.
I see.
And was the promised Messiah.
That's a really insightful approach.
It was.
But I'm guessing he didn't always get a warm welcome?
Oh, you know, Paul?
Yeah.
There was bound to be some pushback.
Right, of course.
He faced a lot of resistance and opposition from Jewish leaders who saw his teachings as a threat.
And from those who benefited from the existing religious systems.
So what did he do when he met that kind of resistance?
He adapted.
Okay.
When he was rejected in the synagogues, he'd move to more public spaces.
Hmm.
marketplaces, lecture halls,
Oh, okay.
engaging people in conversations and debates.
So he was really going out there meeting people where they were,
He was.
sparking those discussions.
He wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo
I like it.
and get people thinking critically.
He sounds like a true advocate for his message.
He was passionate
Yeah.
and persistent.
He wasn't just delivering sermons.
Right.
He was starting a movement.
Exactly. And don't forget, he had those dedicated companions we talked about.
Right.
They were there to support him,
Yeah.
encourage him,
Uh-huh.
and provide practical help.
They were a crucial part of his success.
Absolutely. A true team effort.
This has been an eye-opening look at Paul's story
It has been.
and the impact of the people who journeyed with him.
And it shows us
Yeah.
that even the most influential figures
Yeah.
rarely achieve greatness on their own.
Right. They rely on that network of support, that
Exactly.
community of dedicated individuals
Working together.
towards a common goal.
It's a powerful message.
It is, and their stories offer so many valuable lessons for us today.
Oh, definitely.
They challenge us to think about our own place in the world,
Right.
how we can use our gifts and talents to make a difference.
To support each other
Yeah.
and build those bridges of understanding and collaboration.
It's inspiring to think that we're all part of this bigger story,
We are.
this grand narrative of faith, service, and impact.
And who knows?
Well,
Maybe someday people will be studying our stories,
yeah,
uncovering those hidden connections and contributions that shaped history.
it's a beautiful thought.
It really emphasizes the importance of living each day with purpose,
Yes.
chasing our passions,
Yeah.
supporting each other,
And making our mark on the world.
leaving our legacy.
Well said. I love that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive
My pleasure.
into the world of the Apostle Paul and his incredible companions.
It's been a journey.
It has. I hope this conversation has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore more.
There's so much to discover.
Who knows what other amazing stories are waiting to be uncovered?
The adventure continues.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
About all those people working behind the scenes today.
Yeah.
You know, the ones who are shaping history.
The unsung heroes.
Right, the ones we might not even recognize for years.
Exactly. They might not be looking for the spotlight,
Right.
but their dedication, their support,
Uh-huh.
their willingness to do that, sometimes unglamorous work,
Yeah.
that's what makes the difference.
That's what allows those big ideas to flourish.
Exactly.
I mean, without those folks who would be there to capture those amazing stories,
Right.
to document them for future generations.
Or to offer support when things get tough.
Exactly. It really makes you see Paul and his ministry in a new light.
Yeah, he wasn't this lone wolf figure.
Right.
He had this whole community around him.
A team.
Yeah, people who supported him, challenged him,
Yeah.
and helped him bring his vision to life.
It makes him seem more human somehow.
More relatable.
Yeah.
It reminds us that greatness often comes from collaboration,
Right.
when different people come together,
Uh-huh.
each bringing their own unique gifts and perspectives.
And Paul's ministry is a perfect example of that.
Definitely.
Without those individuals we've talked about,
Yeah,
the story of early Christianity would be very different.
no doubt about it.
Speaking of Paul's ministry,
Yeah.
I'm curious about his approach to spreading the gospel. It wasn't just random, was it?
No, he was very strategic
Oh.
and adaptable.
In how he went about it.
Yeah, he wasn't just wandering around preaching to anyone.
Okay.
He targeted specific locations,
Like,
usually those major urban centers.
I see. So he was aiming for maximum impact, hitting those population centers where his message could reach the most people.
Yeah, and have that ripple effect.
So smart. But how did he approach those new cities?
Oh,
I mean, did he just show up in the town square and start preaching?
not quite.
What did he do?
He usually started at the local synagogue.
Oh, the synagogue. Okay.
That way he could connect with Jews and God-fearing Gentiles.
People who are already familiar with the scriptures.
Exactly, meeting them where they were.
Smart move, especially when Christianity was still so new.
Right.
It was a new concept for most people.
He'd use the Old Testament
Oh, okay.
to reason with them.
Show them how Jesus fulfilled those prophecies.
Yeah, and explain how he was the Messiah.
That's a really clever approach.
It was effective.
But I bet he didn't always get a positive response.
You know, Paul,
Yeah,
there was always going to be resistance.
right.
He faced opposition from Jewish leaders
Yeah.
who saw his teachings as a threat,
Makes sense.
and from those who were making money from the old religious systems.
So when he met that resistance, what did he do?
He adapted.
Okay,
If
how?
he was rejected at the synagogue,
Yeah.
he'd go to more public places, marketplaces, lecture halls.
Okay.
He'd engage people in conversations and debates.
So he was always finding new ways to connect with people
He was.
and to challenge their thinking?
Yeah, to get them thinking critically about faith and belief.
He sounds like a true trailblazer,
He was.
a real pioneer for his message.
And remember,
Wow.
he had that amazing team we talked
Yeah.
about. They were crucial to his success.
Absolutely. This has been an amazing journey.
It has.
We started with Paul,
Yeah.
but we've uncovered so much more.
It's been a fascinating exploration.
It has. We've seen the impact of those who worked alongside him.
Their stories are truly inspiring.
They are, and they remind us that even the greatest figures
Yep.
rarely achieve greatness on their own.
It takes a team.
It does. Their stories are filled with valuable lessons for us today. Lessons about dedication, perseverance, the power of collaboration.
And the importance of making a difference in the world.
And I hope this conversation has inspired you
You too.
to think about your own role in this grand story of faith and impact.
We all have a part to play.
We do. Thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive
It's been a pleasure.
into the world of the Apostle Paul and his amazing companions.
Until next time.